Good morning, everybody. Kyle Davis here, Integrity Financial Group, your retirement expert for Generation X and Millennials. Great to see you all today. You know, there is an often overlooked aspect of money that I think we need to acknowledge more because, we're talking about financial planning and investing and doing the right things with our money. It is all about the numbers, right? It really is truly just cold hard math. But there is an emotional aspect to money. There's a sleep at night factor that even though something may mathematically be superior or save you more money or less interest or have a better deal in retirement, more income, just because those things work on paper doesn't always mean that there is a comfort level personally to be able to handle that. There is this big emotional aspect, and the financial services world at large, it's our job to provide the solutions to problems, right? But the art to that has to be brought to the table is that human element and that emotional aspect. You know what? Let's look at an example. I think a great example would be, because I've encountered this a lot lately, because it's Q3 2020 right now, and mortgage rates are low. I mean, they are low, really low. You wouldn't believe some of the figures I'm hearing out there for new mortgages, like refis and such. Let's go to our buddy Google here, and let's look up mortgage calculator. There we go. This is just like a basic, really basic mortgage calculator that Google has. And it's not perfect, but it does give you a pretty good idea of just some raw figures. So if we look here, let's look at, for example, to explore the emotional aspect of money. Let's talk about like the difference between a 30-year and a 15-year mortgage. 30-year and 15-year mortgage, because if you've never explored that before, the big difference between a 15-year and a 30-year mortgage, other than just the length of the mortgage, typically a 15-year mortgage has a lower interest rate, but it's being paid over a shorter amount of time. So the payment is higher, but the interest rate is lower. So over time, over the long haul, you end up paying less interest and you end up paying the mortgage off faster. But there's that added element of a higher payment that you have to deal with. But you get to have your house paid off early, for better or worse. So let's look at this for a moment. So if we had a $30,000 home, 20% down, pretty standard 20% loan, and we had a 30-year rate of 3%. And we're in Florida, 30-year fix, they're estimating $3,750 a year for property taxes, about $1,000 a month for homeowners insurance. We end up with a total monthly payment of $1,413. $1,000 of that is going to the loan. The rest of it is, escrow and such. So that is a pretty manageable monthly payment for a lot of people for a mortgage. In fact, in Orlando, where I'm at, that's less than a lot of rent payments around here. Because the trick is coming up with the down payment. For a lot of my millennial friends and folks who are in their 20s, late 20s, really just hitting the stride of their careers, coming up with that down payment can be tough, but it's really important. But back to the emotional aspect of it. So even though we can flip this around, keep in mind we had $1,413 monthly payment for the 30-year fixed. Whereas a 15-year fixed, we would have a lower interest rate. Let's say 2.5. But that monthly payment is $2,001. So that's a big difference. Even though we're going to be paying a lot less in interest over the life of the loan, and we're going to be paying for less time, there's still this added element of monthly payment. Because if we flip back to the fixed here, you can see the difference. It's about a $600 a month difference. Now, I could do the math on that, and I could show you the volume of interest over the course of that mortgage is drastically different, and make a very, very compelling case that, oh my gosh, on paper it just makes so much sense to do the 15-year mortgage, and you may be able to afford the 15-year mortgage, right? But then in comes the human element to finances. What if you're in a career field that is a little unstable? What if there's a medical issue that comes along? What if there were layoffs at your work this year due to COVID-19 and you barely dodged that? And then you look at this difference in payment and you say, you know what, this $1,413 a month payment is looking a lot more appealing than a $2,000 a month payment. Even though on paper you're going to be saving a lot more interest by taking the 15-year mortgage. And let's be honest here, if you complete that mortgage and you complete that plan, you're going to be in a much better place. Your house is going to be paid off. You paid less mortgage over the long haul. You paid less interest over the long haul, and you own your property. And that's a good thing, right? And that's what we want for people. We want those best outcomes. But there's always that human element to financial planning that you're never going to get around. You're never going to get around. Hypothetically, if you could make that $2,000 a month mortgage payment and really not sweat it too much, okay, might be a good way to go. But if you can make that $2,000 mortgage payment, but you don't sleep well at night because you're worried about your job and, oh my gosh, if I get laid off or if I get my hours cut or something, or if I don't get that promotion, at $2,000 a month might be a little tough, whereas that $1,400 a month payment is a lot more manageable regardless of what happens. You see what I mean? Even though on paper we're going to obviously be doing better in one situation versus another, there's always an art to it, right? It's not just hard math. So I'm sure we could dream up a lot of different examples with this. There are certain for example, there are certain ways to plan for your retirement that don't just involve investing in the stock market. You can involve real estate, you can involve business equity, you can involve insurance and cash value life and things like that. But there's always that unknown. For example, I had a couple that I was talking with. They're not clients, but they might be. And boy, a big part of their retirement dream is having a getaway condo and selling the house and just living on the beach or living in a more vacation kind of zone, which I think is super cool. Boy, wouldn't that be great to retire a condo on the beach, right? I mean, that sounds great. And boy, we were building their entire financial plan around that. But the reality is there's always going to be that uncertainty. When you do something like leverage for real estate, like leverage rentals for real estate, in other words, you come up with the down payment, you put a down payment on a rental property, get a property manager or a do-it-yourself to manage that property, and then let the rentals pay that note off for you. If all goes well for you in that scenario, boy, you could really build yourself a nice property, a single property or multiple properties. But what happens if a COVID-19 year comes along and nobody is doing vacation rentals? You're going to be stuck with that entire note. And if that note is not reasonably a part of your budget, or if that's not something you can swing for 6 months or 9 months or a year without generating any income, but you've got a note that's due, it's a problem, isn't it? It's a problem, isn't it? Because boy, that scenario looks great on paper if you've got rental income coming in. But if you don't, if something goes wrong, or if even just something doesn't go your way for a small amount of time, what does that mean? So we have to be really, really careful about how we go about these things. And we have to realize that, hey, there's always this comfort element, this human element, this unknown. So even though something, that's just what I want to impress on you guys today. Even though something may look best on paper, I caution you, get it looked at from as many angles as possible. Get professionals involved. Get trusted advisors involved. And don't be shy about this. When you're talking big financial moves, like laying out a lot more each month for a mortgage, or financing a rental property on the prospect of having a renter in there paying your stuff off the entire time. Just be careful. Be careful. In worst case, you'd have to sell the property, right? Hopefully at a gain, but maybe not. Just be careful and don't go into these things blind. Leverage your professional network. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. This is Kyle Davis signing off. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you next time.